Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have a wonderful panel of town leaders. We have someone running for Selectman this year. We have our election, as you all know, on April 7th. And we have actually all 5 of us running for town meeting representative, I believe all for re-election. So with me today for the first time on the show is Louis Marino. How are you, Louis?
Great. I'm a pleasure to be here, Tom. Great panel tonight. Great show it's turning out to be.
Yes, yeah, thanks. So finally we get you on the show, because it's the last show before the election, by the way. So that's the most favorite kind of position because you'll be in everybody's memory on election day 2 weeks from today, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We're taping this on, March 24th? So 2 weeks from today is election day. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So Louis is also a town meeting representative, and you're also on the ballot for that, right, Louis?
Yes, Precinct 5.
But later on in the show, we'll talk about why you've decided to run for Selectman and all of your background and everything.
Yep.
Great, thank you. And we also have with us for the 10th time tonight, Bob Joyce. What do you think about that? Double digits, Bob.
Hey, I finally made it.
Yeah, right. That's good because
Right,
double digits is kind of nice,
Yeah. Yep.
And now that you're back on the Board of Selectmen, I invite you more often than when you weren't on the board, right? You might say.
Yeah.
So
I
you
go
were a
back,
Selectman.
20 years ago.
Yeah, in the about 20 years ago. And then you took some time off on the Board of Selectmen, right? And then you ran again. And now you're not up again this year, but you are a member of the Board of Selectmen. I was watching you at the meeting last night.
Yes.
You did a nice job, Bob.
Thank you.
How do you like being back on the board, by the way?
Oh, I like it. It's a lot different. Technology's changed, and the personalities have changed that are around.
Yeah.
It's a different town hall than when it was when I ran the first time.
Yes, it is. And also, you're a town meeting representative running for re-election. What precinct is that, Bob?
Precinct 1.
Precinct 1.
Dead last.
On the ballot? Oh, but is it competitive this year?
No, it's only 6 for 6.
Oh, so you're all set then.
But I was last in the Selectman's race last year, too.
On the ballot?
Yeah.
Oh, that's your Who was last? I think Pat Wojcik is last on the ballot this year, right?
Yes.
For Selectman?
Yes, it's almost alphabetical, but it's by accident.
Yeah.
It happened that way. She told me that last night.
Yeah, she just does a drawing. She being our wonderful town clerk, Marino Maloney. So thanks, Bob. Anything else you want to say for the quick introduction?
No, looking forward to the discussion with this group. This is an astute group here, so.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I'll talk about what I have on the table later on, but I was going to mention why I have the elephant on the table. If somebody, they could probably guess now that I said elephant.
Yeah.
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, because guess what? Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Brian Latina's here with us again. Brian, and this is your, 5th time on the show?
I think that's right.
And Brian hosted the Republican Town Committee debate just last week.
Yeah,
right,
I actually
Brian?
I moderated that. It was a lot of fun. This is the second year in a row that we had the debate that I'm aware of anyway. And I thought it was very well received. It was a lot of fun. And I think the folks, if they wanted to watch that, could get on and look at it on the computer and watch what the next 2 selectmen had to say.
Yes, and it's on YouTube for one thing. Chelmsford Telemedia, if people haven't subscribed yet, you could subscribe on YouTube to Chelmsford Telemedia, and you could go there, click on Chelmsford Telemedia, and all of the current, Board of Selectmen meetings show up, your Republican Town Committee debate, school committee meetings. So it's really good to subscribe to that, I would say, Chelmsford Telemedia. So twice you moderated that, and the place was packed, right?
It was
standing room only, I think.
Standing room only, yep. They
Excellent.
started bringing chairs up and packing them in the back. We did it over at the police station, but maybe we should have a bigger venue next year. I thought it was very well received.
Yeah, wonderful. And you also are running for re-election town meeting representative, Precinct 4, is it, Brian?
Once again, Precinct 4. I know that I ran in first year in 1996, so been there for a little bit of time.
Me too, over 20 years now, and I haven't missed a meeting in 20 years while I've been a rep. So did you hear that, all Precinct 9 voters? I'm up, we're all on the ballot again this year, so. So anyway, yeah, it's exciting. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say? You're on the Republican Town Committee, of course.
Republican Town Committee. I'm also on the 101 Mill Road Committee. I had done the Marcom Committee at the end of last year as well. This was the moderator looked at town meeting and said it was a little dysfunctional. How can we improve it?
Yeah.
And then we had a new moderator come in and change it again. So I think that committee might be well to look at it again and do it again.
How do you think the new moderator is doing so far?
It's a learning process. I think it was a little bit, there were some things that bothered me, just the term, we're in discussion now. I looked at the charter and there's no such thing as discussion. It's either debate or question and answer. So those little changes, though just words and minor things, are things that are bothersome and things that need to be corrected, I think.
I see.
I
Well,
thought the acting moderator was good this year.
I did too.
Who was that? Oh, this is Mike McCall. Yes.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, he has a 5-shot there at the table. Pete, yeah, you have the table, as everyone could see. That's a little elephant there, right there. And this is because we have mostly Republicans and 2 independents, 3 Republicans and 2 independents on the show tonight. And that's a tea kettle there that you could brew tea there with loose tea in it. So yeah, Pete's got a nice close-up shot of it. So I thought in honor of our Republican friends tonight and our Republican-leaning friends, we have that for our, what would you call it, our table
Ornament.
ornament, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I thought maybe the teapot was for the new Japanese restaurant, which I'm sure you've been to. Already.
Yes, yeah. Did you see my Facebook post? Yeah, I was at the Nobo with a friend last week. So many people responded on Facebook because it was my birthday last week, and so it was really good. That family is so friendly at Nobo. They treated us like royalty. I hate to say it, but they treated us so well, and the food was good. The service was excellent. So please try out Nobo at the old Stop and Shop Plaza in Chelmsford Center if you haven't already. They serve lunch and dinner there, of course. Well, thank you, Brian. And Michael, time to introduce my good friend, Michael McCall. And guess what, Michael? This is your 20th time on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, as always. I enjoy coming on. So.
Thank you. Well, I don't know, well, I've shown this before, but this is where I have the gold panelists of the show, those who have been on 20 or more times. And Mike McCall now, this is his 20th time on the show. Mike was on our first show back in April 12th, 1995. We now have 10 people on this list, but I think our town manager, Paul Cohn, is going to be joining it in May when we do our 20th anniversary show. It'll be his 20th time already on the show. Pete, would it be possible for you to show that picture of our first show, April 12th, 1995, on the screen? There we go. As you can see, that's me. You probably can't recognize me in the center there. At that time, in 1995, we used to tape at the Chelmsford High School. I don't know if you recall that, Mike. Mike, you could see, is the second one on the left. He looks about the same now, but that's...
There's a lot more hair. There's a lot more hair.
No, it's Jack.
And to the left of Mike McCall is Bill Logan, who was also a selectman, as was Mike McCall. And Bill Logan moved out of Chelmsford, so we haven't been in touch with him lately, but I understand he's back in Massachusetts, which is good. Second from the right is Barbara Ward, who was on the school committee back at that time. And that, again, that was our first show in 1995. Barbara Ward is still in Chelmsford and very active, and we got to get her on the show again soon. And to the right is our beloved friend, Jack Emerson, who also was a Chelmsford selectman, and he passed away at the age of 64 about 10 years ago, I would say.
He was instrumental in the sewer commission.
Yeah.
Yes, very instrumental in the
Mr.
sewer commission.
Sewerhead.
Well, thank you, Pete. So, Mike, as everyone, you were a selectman here in town for about 9 years, Mike?
Yes.
How did you like that?
Oh, I enjoyed it, but as time progressed, we had 3 kids, and as they were growing up, demands with sports, schooling, and all sorts of activities started to take over, and I realized it was good to let someone new come on the board and spend some time with my kids. But now as they've become teenagers, I have more and more time, and I keep running into Brian. I was the chairman of the MARCOM, and I'm the chairman of the Republican Committee, and we have a great committee there. And now we put on a lot of events
Chairman
like the
of the Republican Town Committee?
Yes.
Great. I'm sorry, go ahead.
and I'm on the board of registrars working with Marino Maloney. And I was going to put a plug in later for the new polling places, so we can talk
good.
about
Yeah,
that
we can
as
talk
well.
about that when we talk
But,
about
you
the
know,
election.
Just filling my time with coaching and doing all these things, it's been quite fulfilling. So as we all progress, different stages in our life, there's time for different things. So there may be
Yes.
time for more politicking down the road, but for right now, what I'm doing and being a town meeting rep is quite fulfilling, and it's where I need to be at the moment.
Wonderful. And you're up for re-election in what?
Yes, precinct 3.
3. Yep, wonderful. And how many are in that running this
I
year?
believe that we have 4,
Maybe 4
and
or
then
5,
there's,
yeah.
and that's something we can talk about too.
Yeah,
the
so
lack
people
of
could
candidate.
lack of candidates, but the other 2 spots, if 4 are running, people could run as write-ins in
Yes.
precinct 3. So if you're at home, you live in precinct 3, please consider running as a write-in. You could stand outside the polls, ask people to write in your name.
150 feet back.
150 feet back, yeah. Yeah, Marino probably
She
have a
brought that up last
designation
night,
somewhere.
yeah, at the time, at the Selectman.
And
meeting.
precinct 3, where are you? Is your polling place this year?
This year it's going to be at the Senior Center. Precincts 2 and 3 will be at the Senior Center. Precincts 7 and 8 will be at the McCarthy Small Gym, and precincts 1, 4, 5, 6, and 9 will be in the McCarthy Large Gym.
Wonderful.
So
Well,
those
thank
are
you.
the new polling places. So
Yeah,
don't
well,
forget.
we'll see how that works out this year.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are concerned about the parking and everything,
Yep.
but hopefully it'll all work out well.
Because hopefully there's a multitude of reasons why Marino was looking towards it and meeting with the selectman and the police chief, but there's should be some cost savings down the road. Not huge, but through the consolidated efforts, as well as facilitation of the voting and helping the people as they come into the, you could have fewer poll workers, and you would have access to the town clerk and the assistant clerk as well as the registrars by having the consolidated voting. So.
Well, I hope it works out okay, Mike. And the last time, as I recall, you were working in New Hampshire as, was it a prosecutor?
Yes, sir.
So you're an attorney then,
Yes.
right? Well, how do
Yeah.
you like being an attorney, by the way?
It's fun. I was a software engineer for quite a few years, and I migrated with technology and the law, and I found I enjoyed the courtroom, so I've been
Really?
doing that for quite a while.
You know what my favorite show is on TV? Well, one of them. There's some great shows. Right? Better Call Saul. If you haven't watched it,
I've seen it a couple
oh,
times.
I love it's combined with Breaking Bad, which was my favorite show as well. Breaking Bad, of course, ended, and this is a prequel. It starts like 6 years before Breaking Bad. Did any of you see Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul? No.
Yep.
I haven't seen Better Call Saul yet, but Breaking Bad, I've seen a few of the episodes.
Oh, I would never miss it. What's wrong with? I love these violent crime shows. Well, Better Call Saul, however, he plays a lawyer. That's why.
Yeah.
And we just found out in this week's episode that he took a correspondence course to become an attorney, and he passed the bar in his 3rd time. So then he's working with elderly for wills to make a few $100. But now he just landed into maybe a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit that his brother is a famous attorney is helping him with.
Yes.
So if you're an attorney, you like that stuff, you might like the show. I love it.
I've seen it a couple times.
Bob Odenkirk is fantastic as Saul, but he hasn't changed his name yet. He'll be changing his name to Saul soon because he thought it would get him more business.
His method of practicing is a little different than most.
Yeah.
method.
Oh, I love it. It's great. So, Mike, anything else you want to say in a quick introduction? And
No, I think we've capped most of it, but
great.
again, thanks for having me on. As always.
thank you. I think there was a time when you were really busy when you had the new job in New Hampshire
Yeah.
that you couldn't come on. That's why you've only been on 20 times, but still, that's
No,
pretty good.
no,
But he started in 1995, let's face it. Lewis wasn't even in town then, right? Lewis, did you?
No.
When did you move in?
97.
1997. Well, nice. Well, thank you, Michael.
Well, thank you, Tom.
So, Lewis, why have you decided to run for selectman this year?
I think it's time for new blood, new energy, new eyes to look on the same problems, but new thoughts, new ways of doing business, not keeping with the status quo.
Great. So, what are your top priorities if elected? Lewis?
My top 3 priorities, number 1 would be to give the citizens tax relief in the town of Chelmsford. Not a lot of people know that the tax rate has increased by about 41.5% in the last 10 years. To see the implementation and the further going on of the Center Village Master Plan and also the Vinyl Square Master Plan for the North Village.
What about those master plans? What do you want to do with them?
See that they get implemented and on everything lead towards helping us lower our tax rate by encouraging businesses to come to town, whether they be small businesses, artists who want to open up a new business, to have a studio that they can sell their wares to the community.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I didn't ask you earlier. I talked about Mike, about his job and everything. Could you tell us what your employment is?
Yes,
Louis?
I am a co-owner of Mass Investigations and Recoveries. We do stuff on the like forensic accounting, fugitive recovery, asset recovery, judgment recovery, receiverships, where if a business goes under, we receive their assets from the bank and everything.
You receive their assets from the bank?
Yeah, like, and then we distribute them back to the bank and stuff.
So you receive the assets. How big of companies are we talking about?
It can be any size. I've done judgment cases all the way up to $1.4 million.
So you would get 1.4 million, your company?
No, we would get, on those types of cases, we get about 50%.
50, so $700,000, for example, it goes into your company account, I assume, and then you distribute it
To my employees.
to your employees.
If it's for a receivership, then all the assets go back to the bank.
I see.
We're just the middleman.
Yeah, I would figure you wouldn't be
No,
keeping
no,
that money, right?
no.
700. Your employees.
Yeah.
Well, you don't. Do you have employees?
Yeah,
Louis?
we have 9 people that work for us.
Wonderful. And do they work in different towns,
Yep.
or are they all?
I have them from out here all the way down to Cape Cod.
Really wonderful. So how do you communicate with them, Louis? Do you do it?
We communicate by we have an app on our cell phones, our tablets. We talk by phone every day. We do a lot of fugitive recovery work out of the state of New Hampshire,
Great.
state of Massachusetts.
Wonderful. So do you enjoy that, Louis?
Love it. I have it goes right along with my degrees. I have a master's degree in criminal justice with a minor in forensics from Western New England College. So I look at it as a way of using what I already know.
Yes, and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
It sounds like, Louis. And you're also up for town meeting representative at Precinct 5, right?
Yes.
Re-election. Any priorities that you have with that, or anything you'd want to see changed at town meeting?
I
or-
just think that we need, as town meeting reps, we need to be more in touch with what our precincts want.
Okay.
And not, a lot of our reps, they have the mentality of a one vote, and they don't go to their precincts. I understand it's a large number of people to see how their precinct feels about something. They try to vote with themselves as the number of people in their precinct, and I'd like to see more of that change, more outreach to the citizens of Chelmsford.
Yeah.
Plus, we have 14 seats that are open still on town meeting that nobody's running for.
Yeah.
I think we need to get the word out there and get more people involved.
Yes. Yeah.
Like my wife said to me tonight before we went on the air, she would ask to be a write-in, but we've got 2 kids at home.
Oh, right. Yeah, so one needs to stay at home. So, Louis, have you been calling all your constituents before a town meeting?
Yep.
And how's that been going?
Good. It's long because I have the list of the constituents in the precinct, and I also have the list of people in town to call too. So we're doing well. We're getting out there, waiting for the snow.
Oh, I meant what, as a town meeting representative. Did you call all last year about issues and things before town meeting?
And I've been talking to a lot of them on Facebook too. That about the issues, and then when the warrant comes out, I'll set up a precinct meeting with some of them at like the Java Room or a place like that, and see what their opinion is and how they feel about it.
Wonderful. Great. Well, we'll talk about the debates and your campaign a little bit more in the show. Thanks. Michael, maybe I thought if we can continue with you, you're running for re-election, right?
Yes.
Town meeting representative, Precinct 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, what are your top priorities if re-elected? Do you want to see any changes at town meeting? What are the top issues in town that you're concerned about?
Well, there's a couple things in there. It does bother me over the last few years that you see fewer and fewer people wanting to run. And I'm not sure what the actual reason is. I've had some discussion with some other people that are politicos in town, but I can think back around the time probably when Bob was first ran and before I ran. You know, we'd get 6 candidates, 8 candidates for selectmen, and you would have fully contested town meeting rep races. And I'm not sure if it's the time commitment amongst my peers and people who are younger than me, or the technology, or some of the, how do I want to characterize it? Well, the debate, much like in 9 North Road, and how that went down. And some people say, I don't know if I want to step up for this. And that concerns me that we see fewer and fewer people. And I've heard some people say, hey, should we start looking at a town council form of government?
Lewis did, right?
You know,
think-
I know he's mentioned, but I've heard it from
Yeah.
others. Say, why don't we have, you know, instead of 18 people, one person out of each precinct to represent that section of town? I don't know if that's more of a city form of government, and I don't think the people of Chelmsford are ready for that. But it would be nice if we could get more people to come out and run. That
And run for
s-
town meeting
yeah.
rep. Yeah, I agree with you,
Yeah.
Michael.
But that being said, when I first ran for selectman, and even when I ran as a town meeting rep, I used to go door to door and talk to my constituents. Over time, technology is a bit of a substitute, and seeing a lot of my children's friends, parents, I get input from them. So that's typically how I get my input. But I've always felt that as a lifelong resident, someone went through the school system, who's worked in this town, had a job and worked at a small business in this town, I have a good understanding of how the town works, especially having been a selectman, and I've always been concerned about the budget, open space, quality of life, and quality of life not only means the amenities, but making sure that the tax bills aren't that burdensome for some of the people who are on fixed income.
Yes.
I have still quite a few members of my family at all different stages of their life in this town. So if I don't vote the right way, if I, raising taxes, I get a phone call. If I'm not supporting the schools the right way, I get a phone call. So it's really just listening to the people in the neighborhood and trying to vote the way that they want me to vote. But again, I am given some latitude by some of my neighbors. They said they trust you.
Oh,
But
yes.
again, it's just preserving the quality and the character of Chelmsford as we know it, and making
Yes.
sure we can do it in a fiscally responsible manner.
Speaking of Chelmsford, did you know this is the first night I'm wearing this Chelmsford button? You have one too, Bob?
I
Nice.
have one. I haven't worn. I used to wear when I was a selectman. Yeah.
A selectman gave me this,
Yeah.
by the way.
Oh.
A good friend of mine.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
I got
so-
mine from the police chief.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Nice,
Well,
nice.
these
Yeah,
were
way back
actually
then.
used on the
They were on the
they were
police
used on the
collars.
police callers. That's
Yeah.
how they
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I've seen them.
Yeah.
Every time I get arrested.
Ah, right.
I'm kidding, folks. No, I don't get arrested too often.
It's usually a state police insignia
have
that gets
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Bob, we'll just go this side first,
Yeah, go
okay?
ahead.
Then we'll go. So, Brian, how about you? You're running for re-election. Is it Precinct 4, right?
Precinct 4.
That's a very active road area in terms of changes, it seems, with the Mill Road. You talked about 101 Mill Road. You're on that committee we could talk about. And also the 108 unit, I believe, 40B, that's going to be built at the end of Mill Road near Route 129. So, Brian, what are your top priorities, or what do you think about those two issues, those two developments,
But
possible?
There's some
Not
things
one's a development.
Yeah, there are some things you can't stop, and once the ZBA arrangement was made, it was clear to me, and we actually formed a little citizens group to try to control it a little bit. And I mentioned at one of the first meetings, you can't stop this. I was told by a member of the ZBA the last time I tried, which was 130 Turnpike Road, a single house torn down in a wetlands. There's no way you could build in there, yet they did. And the owner of the property came up to me after the third or fourth meeting at that ZBA session, and he said, hey, you're very good, but I can do whatever I want. And the chairman of the ZBA pulled me aside and he said, Brian, you can't stop 40Bs, all you can do is negotiate. And I was horrified. I thought, yeah, you can. The example of 130 Turnpike was it was not handicap accessible. It's a federal violation. It's in a wetlands. That's a state violation.
I mean, the development is not handicap accessible?
It's not handicap accessible.
And
All
it's
the living
supposed to be?
spaces.
And how did they get
It
away?
must be by federal law. It's
So what did
sidewalk-
they build, townhouses?
They
or-
built townhouses, 24 of them. They came down from 28.
And none are handicapped accessible, or do they have
All the
some?
living spaces on the second floor upstairs. You tell me how an elderly person or my son in a wheelchair gets into one of those 40B developments. That's wrong. I pointed it out during the session and they kind of poo-pooed it. The one at the other end of Mill Road, the driveway up to that has an angle, I think, of 12 degrees. That's a violation of the American with Disabilities Act. Again, you can't make a side, unless you're going to weave the sidewalk across the street 15 times, you can't roll a wheelchair up there. There's a handicapped facility, Lifelinks, directly across the street. Those people in those wheelchairs couldn't live in that facility and make it up that hill without having a bus drive them
Yes.
across the street and up the hill.
Yeah.
Those kind of violations, to have our local folks look at it and say, well, we really want the building because we get to count the numbers, just turns me the wrong way.
Yes. You know, I was against that big 40B development there. I wrote emails and talked to a lot of people on ZBA. And we just couldn't stop it seemed, right, Brian?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think you were with that, trying to stop
We
it.
don't use the tools available to us, or we don't want to stop it. And I think it's probably more of the latter. Again, across the street is a handicap building. We can't even clear the sidewalk of snow. If you go there today after the weather's been pretty warm, that whole corridor in front of a handicap building, in front of a handicap school, around the corner onto 129 towards Billerica, the sidewalk is inaccessible.
Yeah.
We have nice little ramps, we have buttons at the right level, but there's a pile of ice and snow that the town and the state refuses to clean up. And I think if you're going to have you're going to see the law allows me to build this three-story edifices on top of a hill. The ground dirt right now, if you stand on that property, which we did get a chance to walk on it, you can actually see to the 16th floor of the Wang building straight across. Now picture something 50 feet taller. That's going to be a horrible looking thing that overlooks the highway. And 108 new people living there with, let's say 108 kids. That's, by my numbers, about $13 million to the school system over the course of a few years.
I know,
Big problem.
But we couldn't stop it,
We didn't
right,
want
Brian?
to, we didn't want to stop it.
We didn't?
The town
Yeah.
as a whole
The town as a
needs
whole,
to
yeah.
come to the 10% number, and we will do whatever we can to do that.
Oh, I
And then
see.
to finance it, again, 129 corridor around the corner, there's discussion about increasing revenue by putting multi-story buildings, by putting restaurants, by putting hotels on 129. That sounds like a city to me.
Yes, but a little restaurant, I don't think would be bad on 129. Do you, Brian?
Well, it changes the corridor and the flavor of the town. We could put
Well,
a Wegmans in there and do a Burlington at the corner there.
Oh, that'd be big, though.
We
The
could-
Wegmans are huge.
Well, it
I'm
generates
talking
revenue.
about- no, but I'm talking about, I think a restaurant on 129 would be
And
nice.
5 or
and
6
then-
story buildings?
No, I'm talking about a
It's all part and
restaurant.
parcel.
That's right.
No,
part and
but
parcel.
what about a restaurant?
A
Not if I-
restaurant, it'll drag the business out of the center, I think, and
Don't we have enough restaurants?
I don't know if we ever have enough restaurants.
Yeah, I don't know, Bob. I don't know. I don't think so.
We got.
I'd
we
like
got-
to eat.
We got restaurant space on Summer Street where Stop and Shop was. It isn't even filled yet.
Yeah, we're trying to encourage
Oh,
people to
you
come to the
last
read
year.
they're close,
Actually,
though, right?
didn't they just say at Domino's or
Yeah.
that was
I
going in
mean,
there?
you
was
didn't
going
see
in?
reps and residents today or whatever?
I'm sorry, I was.
It looks
out-
like an Italian restaurant may be going into the big end space there.
Oh, good.
So that'd be an upscale, nice Italian
Yeah.
restaurant. However, the Italian restaurant got back to the people who were posting and saying, for some reason,
Yeah.
they have to keep it secret for a while longer.
Yeah.
But it looks like it may be this restaurant, Adagio or Andamo or something like
Because
that.
the landlord will hold them up. That's why hold them up for rent. You know that as soon as it becomes
Yeah. So that looks good. But no, I think, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought a little restaurant might be okay on Route 129 because right over the border there on Brook Kiln Road, they have a little strip mall
Right.
with some restaurants there. And I thought it would be a convenience, by the way, all the office buildings we have right there in Mill Road, a nice little restaurant there, a Chili's or something, all kinds of little restaurants. For them to come
Something
out
might
eat
be,
and keep
you
it
know,
in Chelmsford.
But the issue in our town is what we do is we rezone, and then we look at the unexpected,
Consequence, yeah.
things that happen, and you look and you say, well, we'll put a left turn light at Turnpike and on 101 and
No.
Mill Road. What happens? You end up with a traffic jam. You end up with people cutting through the
There's
neighborhoods.
already a
Those
light,
are all
though, on
things that
Mill
happen.
Road and 129,
Well, the
right?
Mill
The
Road
lights.
129, we all sit, the residents now sit there for 3 or 4 minutes in the middle of the night,
Yep.
not being able to turn left and having a clear view. Those kind of
Yeah,
things
but
we
Brian,
can't fix.
I find the light there is necessary. You don't
Oh, I
think
agree.
we
But
need that light.
At 10 o'clock at night, it should
During
be
the
a
day,
blinking yellow light,
Maybe
or it should
maybe
be
you could
a go ahead and
suggest
turn
that
left.
and get it.
Already did, told we couldn't do it because it's a double left-hand turn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Brian.
No
Thanks.
problem.
We'll have a lot more to talk about. Maybe we
Thanks.
could talk to Bob for a couple minutes.
Sure.
Bob, as a selectman, I watched you on TV last night, but also you're running for town meeting representative this year. I guess that's the only place you're on the ballot this
Yeah,
year, as far as I
precinct
know.
one. Yep.
So, Bob, what are your top priorities as a town meeting rep? What do you think about town meeting or issues in town?
Well, I think the biggest thing is tax relief, and we all talk about it, but none of us are able to accomplish it. And you might remember last year at the November town meeting, when we were flush with money, we bailed out the school department, and I had suggested that we push $700,000 out to the taxpayers, and it got soundly defeated, which really surprised me because it was like I was going to write an $80 check for everybody, and they didn't want it. So the reps certainly aren't representing.
Well, Bob,
yeah.
what was about 40 of us that voted with you
Yeah,
on that, right?
yeah,
Brian probably did.
Yep.
Did you vote?
Yes,
to-
yep.
Mike probably did.
Can't remember.
Oh, you can't
man.
remember? Okay. Louis, how did you vote?
He voted.
So,
he voted for
yeah,
it.
I just thought it'd be nice to try to lower the
Yeah.
increase in the taxes, basically.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not as high. Not that I care, I could afford it easily, but it's the elderly and people on
Right,
fixed incomes. I really feel bad for them when they're struggling for every
Yeah.
dollar.
And
And
it's,
that's the reason I.
It's basically, it's just, something to nibble on. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen all the time now.
Yeah.
3 years ago, when Jim Lane and Curlin and those guys were on, they did 900,000, and they had a fight with the finance committee over it,
Yeah.
and in the town meeting. But
Yes.
I'm a little disappointed that town meeting isn't a little more frugal.
Yeah.
An example of that is the FinCom the other night. I saw Mike Curran come up, and he spent 5 minutes at the table. Yep, everything okay? Yeah, everything's ready to go. And then the next person had, I think it was the senior center. She
Debbie,
was going
yeah.
for a couple of renovations, and under the capital budget, and they peppered her. I mean, they really lashed out at her. And
So
that-
you're saying that they didn't question the fire
Yeah.
chief much hardly at all about
Right.
his request,
Yeah.
but the senior center, they peppered her with questions.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the fire station, budget is a lot bigger than,
Yeah.
than what she
Oh,
was
yeah.
asking for. So
I
it's
know
kind
it
of
is.
weird,
Yeah.
Some years we come to town meeting, we move the budget through, and it's voted in 5 minutes. And then other times we have 3 hours of trying to figure out if we're going to put up billboards or.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Oh, we-
coincidence, but it seemed, when we used to meet in the McCarthy Auditorium,
Yeah.
there was a lot more debate over the budget, and then we moved to the gym, and then the Parker Middle School cafeteria. When we
Right.
started changing venues and people started sitting in a different forum,
In a
in a
different
different
way.
format,
Yeah.
things started changing. I equate some of the changes that we saw at town meeting with the venues.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And as far as changing government, I don't think we're ready for a city forum or
oh no.
a
Yeah,
town.
I'm sorry, respectfully,
Town
Louis.
council. The problem with
I-
that is, you look at Chelmsford, and there's about 200 people that run the town. So if you make it a 9-member council, one from each precinct, the 9 most popular people are going to get,
Yes.
get elected.
Yeah.
So
And will that be totally representative of the
Right.
town?
Yeah.
I have my doubts. But I think 162 town meeting reps do adequately and,
Yes.
and very well represent the town. I
Right.
love the town meeting form of government that we
Yeah.
have now,
Yeah.
representative. It's basically our legislative body.
Right. Right.
There's plenty, 162 of them representing the town. I think that's great.
Right.
And I think it's much better than when we had open town meeting at McCarthy School, et cetera. I remember those days. People would come in just for their issue,
Right.
vote
And
on it, and then leave to
Right.
give like whatever
Right.
group they're in, a raise or whatever, for example.
Right,
But they
right.
could do that in open town meeting. That's
it still
legitimate.
has its biases, like there's the whole group.
Town
of-
meeting, you mean? Oh, representative, yeah.
Representative. We still have the whole bunch of people that, want to support schools, and, that's
Yeah.
fine for them. We actually have a group that shall remain nameless, but I've gone and researched it, that always vote against Neshoba Tech. And it's weird. If you go back 4 and 5 years, now that we've got
Yeah.
you'll see the same people are voting, and there's no reason for it. Those are
Well-
our kids.
Yes, yeah.
185 of our kids are over there.
Yeah, but they have a reason for it, Bob, though. Let's face it. Because I
They have
know
a
I
reason,
talked.
but not a good reason.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying, but they do have a strong reasons. I was talking to one of those individuals recently, and she gave me a lot of information. You just had a meeting there, right? I don't know if you were there at
No, I didn't go to that.
Neshoba Tech. Okay.
No,
So a
not
lot
there.
of the Neshoba Tech school committees were there with the Neshoba Tech superintendent, et cetera.
Yeah.
They had a question and answer period.
No, if we
So-
had a superintendent in Chelmsford as good as the one at Neshoba Tech, we wouldn't have been in the situation in November. So,
That brings us into our next topic.
segue.
So, yeah, segue. This is an open discussion, so I won't call on you per se, but let's just see if you want to talk for a few minutes about what happened in the school department in the past year, you might say, with the big surprise that there was a deficit, and then the business manager wasn't maybe doing the books properly. She was ultimately let go. We now have Mr. Antonelli in there as a consultant type of business manager. We're in the process of hiring a new business manager. There's questions about whether or not we should be keeping Dr. Chiano as our school superintendent. And there was a budget deficit in this current FY. Well, we're still in 15 now, right? But we will
We're
be
preparing
in FY 16 pretty soon. So anyway, how about just this overall topic of the school department budget, the superintendent? I'll just leave it open for anything you might want to say.
I think I'll jump right in, and I think that the whole thing was too clandestine for me. I'm not so sure the business manager was at fault because they never really told us what went on, and then they sealed the records once they made a settlement with her. And
So they can't be seen at all, Bob, even in the future?
yeah,
That's amazing. Why would they?
it was part of the court, part of the settlement, the
Now, why did
25,000.
we have to seal the records? The town, that is, or
That was
whatever.
part of the negotiation.
I mean, I don't know.
And my understanding is that it was the school department that wanted it that way.
Yeah, that I don't
Yeah.
understand. But go ahead, Bob.
I don't know for absolute certain, but if we had a manager in private industry that did that, and the business manager misappropriate, in essence, this is misappropriation. It's actually criminal, but nobody wants to go after it because the AG has to get involved and everything. And
Yeah.
and I spoke to an auditor about it, and he said, well, as long as they weren't stuffing cash in their pocket,
Yeah.
the DAs don't really want to go after it.
Yes, yeah.
Right? But it was misappropriation of funds. So,
Yeah.
and to be honest, the school committee was they weren't paying attention, and Tiano wasn't paying attention, and that's why it happened.
Yeah. But it may change in the future, though, right, Bob? Our system is totally changing now. It's going to be all detailed school department
Yeah.
budget, probably in the town budget as well,
Yeah.
which has always been well run, I think, and supervised.
And one of the things that they want to raise that job from a business manager to a director of finance or whatever it is, right? The business manager was making $122,000 a year. Darlene, who is our treasurer, accountant, makes well below that. And she's responsible for the entire town, as is John Souza. He makes less than what?
He makes less than the business manager was making?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the as far as the classification of that person, it was a business manager. Now they want to make him a director of finance.
Did they do that already, Bob?
Yeah, they did it.
Oh, that's
It's
too
just,
bad.
it's
Is
just the school committee says we can do it. We're going to do it.
Because that's going to cost us more money, right? In terms
That's
of the
exactly what I
starting
said to them.
salary
Yeah,
even.
that's what exactly.
Plus the benefits.
And they really should have a CPA. But the first round of applications,
No CPAs.
no CPAs.
Yeah. How many applicants? Do we know how many
I thought I heard
applicants there were?
seven or eight. They're going out on the second one. They're going out on the second search.
Oh, because the first one wasn't
They
sufficient.
didn't like. They
apparently.
didn't like what
Wow.
they got in the first
Wow.
one. so.
Thank you, Bob. Let's see if
Okay.
anybody else has any comments about this whole budget situation.
Yeah, I'm very concerned. As a taxpayer and as a town meeting rep, one of the motions I tried to put forward was, hey, you spent $800,000, that's all very nice and good, but only town meeting can allocate $800,000. Whether you spend it or somebody wrote a check in the town that didn't have the authority to do so, town meeting should have voted, in my view, to allocate the 800,000 or not. If we allocate it, okay, now we move ahead. If you spend the money and you never allocated it, what you did was illegal. Somebody should go to jail. Who's responsible? You could figure that out through the court system. That's why we have prosecutors, attorney generals, and such. But $1 million is taking, I think you used the number $80 out of everybody here's wallet and everybody in town's wallet. They stole $80 out of that budget and did so for the next year. They didn't allocate it properly. We didn't give the taxpayers a chance to vote us out for spending an extra $1 million or so. And then the following year it gets, it gets progressive. Next year it keeps going. So it's $80 a year for the next.
And they weren't blind to this issue, because I have a report that I've seen. It's called the Interest Report, written by a guy in town in 2005 who predicted this collapse. So it's not that they didn't know it was coming. It's how did they didn't prevent it from coming, and they could have.
Yeah.
Well, I ran for school committee in 1996, and one of the chief items there was to have an exception report. You don't care. The salaries are a budgeted amount, 80% of the budget. If those are running, properly every month, that's not something to focus on. The thing you focus on is where are the numbers moving from line item to another line item. They come to town meeting, they get a bucket of money, and they talk about, I remember still, one of them talked about we need an alto saxophone. Well, I knew for a fact they had two. They didn't need it because my son was one that was invited to play the thing because they had extras. But then they don't spend it on alto saxes, they spend it on something else.
Is that allowed, Brian?
Yeah, it's allowed.
Yeah, they can
on
move
the school budget. They
school
have
budget.
autonomy.
But don't they have
They
to
get a
have
figure.
authorization before they make a change like that?
Technically,
I think in the
theory,
future they
school-
will.
in
Yeah, but
theory,
technically they
school
don't have to.
committee-
Yeah,
in theory,
but I
school
think they
committee
might
will
be
vote.
changing that, Bob,
Yeah.
to get more stringent on the purchase orders, the whole purchasing system,
Right.
et cetera, in the budget.
I'm chairman of the board at a handicapped school, essentially a trustee, if you will, a school committee member, if you wanted to call it that, effectively same thing. And I look at the budget and I say that, as a budget, special needs is a very well-known figure. And to have them discuss this near the end of the year as a special ed problem just blew me away. It's a very trackable number. You know every month how much you're going to pay. It should be on automatic pay. When you get an extra child in, that's a surprise. That should be a bullet item for school committee for a discussion.
Yes, yeah.
And they blamed it on that. In fact, they're actually going to put a line item for each child, which I have a huge problem with.
Well, as long as it's
HIPAA violation is going to be there.
disguised.
It's going to be there because that child will be trackable to
To
a
be a
vendor, and
unique
now I will
dollar
know
figure.
who it is. That's not how you solve that problem. You solve that problem by saying, hey, we added one more child halfway through the year. I need this much more money.
Would people, when I have discussions about it, it comes down to oversight, disclosure, and accountability. And people want to know, why did it take so long? Where was the oversight? Where was the checks and balances? And as Bob alluded to, when we talked about being selectmen, the manager would propose things, we would sign it. Selectmen don't sign the warrants anymore, but the school committee here was signing these warrants. Where are the checks and balances? And again, disclosure. I mean, you can use the Freedom of Information Act. New Hampshire has a slightly different version of it, and there is one, a state version of it. And there are certain times, much like the open meeting law, that you can't talk about certain things, litigation, employment. And you can put off disclosing some of these things, but not letting the public know in a timely manner what's going on breaches the trust and ultimately the accountability. As Bob said and everybody else has said, if this happened in private industry, somebody, if they weren't charged criminally, would be facing the door with a pink slip. And people want to know, like I said, why did it take so long? Why didn't you tell us about it? And who's going to be held responsible? Which the main issues that you see driving in the school committee race right now, it's something that keeps coming up. So it is a concern going forward.
Thank you. Speaking of the school committee race, why don't we talk a little bit, open discussion about the debates recently. Lewis is, I think, the only one here that's been participating, right? As a selectman candidate, Lewis is one of 4 candidates for 2 seats at our election taking place on April 7th. So I just wonder if we could have an open discussion. Maybe first we could start with the selectman debates, if anybody has any comments. Maybe Lewis does, being there, but...
Well, just out of the box, and Lewis is here, but one thing that's always nice about our town, and this year as well, as every year, we have people that are all coming to the table with a great set of qualifications. Sometimes you'll see a candidate or two that's just running for a single issue, but you have people that appear to be generally interested in the town. They all come with credentials, working in business, well-educated, well-spoken. So regardless of who wins the school committee seat or two of those seats on the Board of Selectmen, the town, I think, would be in good hands with good qualified people. That being said, it is interesting to watch all four of the selectmen's candidates, the issues. There are differences between them. In the school, watching it, some of the issues are similar, but there are different personalities involved. And we'll see if anybody else wants to comment.
Well, I didn't mention for it. So we have two candidates running for re-election. Bob serves with them all the time. Pat Wojcik, who's the current chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and George Dixon running for re-election to his third term. And Pat, it's about her third term as well, I believe.
Yeah.
It's about her 7th year she's going into. There was a little bit
She
of
had a hiatus.
hiatus a little bit. So we have those two running for re-election, and we have two new candidates. Lois Marino is with us tonight, and we have Laura Merrill, who has been a town meeting representative, I believe, for about 4 years.
Precinct 2.
I believe in Precinct 2. And she's been active, though, at town meeting, as you may recall. She doesn't have any qualms about going up to the microphone and speaking her mind, which is good. For a leader, you want them to not be too shy about going to the microphone. So anyway, with that said, any other comments about how do you think the debates are going? How do you think the candidates have been doing and all of that?
I'll jump in. As far as school committee, it looks like Sal Lapoli and
Anita
Tanini, they're almost a lot alike. And I thought early on Sal might have said he wouldn't fire Tiano, but then when they get to the ABC, the Business Association, he said unequivocally he would probably fire him. And
well, especially at the Republican town committee.
He said that at the Republican.
Yeah,
Actually,
that Brian
he hedged on the at the other one. He said
No,
he
the
didn't
He
have
was waiting for
Yeah.
information.
He said he
was
got
what-
information and he
Right.
And he said something happened, more people were let go
Right.
within the prior 42 hours of the Republican
That's right.
Right,
debate.
right,
And
right.
that changed his mind that he thinks the superintendent should definitely.
And I think Sal's, I think he's a great
Business
person as far as, he's a self-made man, really, when you think of it.
Yes, yeah.
I really don't know if he has the time to put into school committee that these people have to put in, because over the years I've been a good friend with Evelyn, and it's just unbelievable the amount of time they put in.
Yeah.
And he tends to think that, and I kidded him the other night, I bumped into him, that, he's going to go up to Governor Baker's office and bang on the door and say, we want more Chapter 70 money. Well, we've done it. We've done that already, right? So I think he'll learn a lot of things along the way if he gets elected. And I think Anita's heart is in the right place, and I think they're both good candidates.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people are saying that no matter which one wins, they're both great candidates, and they hope whoever doesn't win will run again
Wins
next year.
right.
So we'll see. But
Well, to Sal's credit, I mean, he was 2 years behind me in high school, but
Sal was?
but being out on the sports fields and coaching, I know he puts time in for the public schools. He works with the high school football, but he also works with Pop Warner. I helped the other year with raising money for the turf fields, and he was behind that. So in addition to running the business, he does devote quite a bit of his free time to the town.
Yes.
So that
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
people may not know that unless you have kids actively involved in sports in the schools as well.
yes,
So-
and I think he mentions it somewhat at the debates, but you're right, he spent a lot of time. I don't know if people know the magnitude of his businesses, but Sal was on my show recently, and there's about 50 of the Sal's Pizza places, about half are company-owned, half franchise,
Right.
5 Salvatore's restaurant. His company's now owned over 3 million square feet of real estate, mostly in the Lawrence area. He just bought about 200 new apartments in the Lawrence area, and I
he
averaged the
bought
cost of $187,000 per unit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy is a very successful business person. As you said, self-made, really.
Yeah.
He started with nothing. I think he said he had to sell his car to get the first money to
Right.
get going
And
for Sal's
it was
Pizza.
up in Salem, and when I used to work in that area, we used to go, and we went in part because it was a kid from Chelmsford. My friend said, hey, hey, there's a new pizza place up in Salem Depot. So
Yeah, nice. So
And
he,
that
I mean,
was
he worked hard.
25 plus years ago in the early 90s. So
Right.
And he's
right,
doing a
right.
great job.
Yeah,
And
I mean, you can't question it, really.
yep.
He also bought a building in Lowell recently, the
good.
comfort bedding.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Good.
where the chimney got hit
Good.
by
Good.
lightning. So
Got
he's
hit
gonna-
after he bought it, right?
It was after he bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to be said.
Mm.
Anita also is very interesting, and again, I'm with everyone else. I'd love to have, all four of the people running for selectmen come in and do that job, and have these two folks get on the school committee. I looked at her resume and listened to what she had to say, and I was very impressed with. She generated $41 million worth of revenue for her company, and these are high quality people that we have running in our town, and it's magnificent that they're going to do this thing for free.
Yeah.
I mean, here you have a big time business guy that we all recognize the product he does, and you have this high end businesswoman who's willing to step away from her family for school committee, and it's a huge job. It's
Yeah,
a
it is.
huge time commitment for no pay.
Right.
It's fabulous. It's
just the fact that they put themselves out there, given
Yeah.
the scrutiny that we talked about that
Yes,
the candidates
I
have
know,
gone
I
through,
know. It's amazing.
and they both bring business acumen as well as a financial background. So,
Yes.
as you say, it's a win-win. I think
Yeah.
whoever wins,
We
is
can't go
unique.
wrong. We
Right.
can't go wrong. Same thing with our selectmen. I looked at them and I said, I think, from a moderator's point of view, I heard a very conservative view from one set of them, and a very tax view. Hey, we have to spend the money because we're in that mode, and this is what it cost us to run the town. So you have a very educated group that have been in for a while, that maybe recognize more things than we all know as citizens, and you have a group that's willing to jump in there and try to save us some money. So
Yes.
I'm kind of happy with whoever wins.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because if signs could vote right now, I think Laura would win. But that's in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure that will change. I don't know if you're getting signs out. When I was at the Hall of Fame with George and Pat, they said they weren't bothering with it until the landscape was clear. I said, well,
That's a
That's
bit
the
luck
after
this
the
year.
election.
good luck,
I
guys.
see the signs going into the snow, the wires
Yeah.
in the snow,
Yeah.
which is
That
reasonable.
works.
Yeah,
And then if the
basically,
owner could
yeah.
keep an eye out, if it falls over, the snow melts, just put it in again
Right.
until it gets.
And when they do
the-
drop them off, they drop off a card so that if they don't want to do that, they can call the candidate and have the candidate come back.
Yes, yeah, great. So, Louis, you participated in the debates for selectmen this year. So, what are your thoughts about how they've gone so far?
I think they've gone great. We had two great moderators, Brian, Doug Hulser. It's also been a learning experience for me, and everything I can do, it makes me a better person learning every day of my life. Because if we stop learning, we die. And if I don't win, I can't say I didn't come out of this without learning.
What did you learn? Could you summarize a couple of
I've
things?
learned a lot of different things about how the town runs, what the people are like in town, how the different departments interact.
Yep. Nice. Well, before our time runs out, we still have a few minutes, but I want to make sure to get in the future debates. There's one going on tonight, which by the time the show is there, that debate will be over, but it will take place at the Senior Center on today's March 24th on a Tuesday. But this is unusual because this is sponsored by the Lowell Sun, and we've never had them come into Chelmsford and host a debate in our town, right?
Right.
Sometimes the candidates would go there and talk and be interviewed.
That's probably
I
the
think
basis.
it's because of
that would
Sal
be the-
Lapoli, I
Yeah,
think.
but I think it will be the basis of doing their recommendations too. Last year, I went into the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get called in for
And Joe already
editorials.
did too,
Yeah.
but they won't have that this year. They'll run from this one.
From there.
Yeah.
But it is unusual, though. I think a lot
Yeah,
of it has to do
very
with Sal
unusual.
Lapoli because he's such a prominent figure in this area,
Mm-hmm.
and the Lowell Sun really wants to cover everything about that school committee race.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what it appears to me. Well, the next night, the League of Women Voters are going to have their debate, as Louis knows, because they'll be there, hopefully, March 25th at the police station, starting at 7 p.m., the gathering at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they actually started debate at 7 like the Republicans did,
Yeah.
but they may start at 7:30.
So they could be done by 9.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I like to get home early. I'm so old now, which is kind of true.
I am
Well,
too.
it is true,
And-
actually.
and
Who
I
am
know-
I kidding?
And I know you're looking forward to the warm weather so you can get out there and bike off
And
all
bike,
the...
I know all my calories, yes. All the weight I put on, the winter weight. I've gotten one ride in so far this year when we had that 50-degree day. But hopefully later on this week, it's going to warm up a little bit. I'm hoping to get out. And then we also have another debate on April 1st, sponsored by the Democratic Town Committee.
Right.
That's also going to be at the police station. So this year, I think that's 5 total
Yes.
debates.
Yep.
So some
We're getting our
candidates don't
monies-
really like it.
We're getting our money's worth out of that community room at the police
I
department.
know, aren't
Yeah,
we?
that's true.
And there's a new one that we've utilized, Republicans over at
fire
the
station.
fire
The
station.
new fire station, I know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller, right? No
Right.
stadium seating, but it's a nice meeting room
Yeah.
there. What's it, about 40 or seats, somewhere in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
35?
Yeah, about a nice
like a
little
big
tables.
classroom,
The only
yeah.
problem is the bell goes off every once in a
Oh,
while.
we-
You have
yeah,
to
they-
jump up, put on your jacket, and run.
have to-
The
The
bell
fire
for the
alarm,
fire
yeah.
station, the fire
It's
alarm,
really kinda
wow.
neat.
Wow. Well, before we go, we have a couple of minutes. Maybe Bob has been on this issue a lot, the old fire station site. I saw Mary Donovan speak
Yeah.
at the Selectman meeting. What's
She
going
thanked
on?
me
Yeah, that was nice.
personally.
She was thanking you a lot. And then
Um,
she mentioned Matt, and he talked to 5 people or something.
Yeah.
But what's going
I
on with
think,
that?
well, she wanted to save the fire station, as I did. And all I wanted, it would have only taken like an extra 60 days maybe, and that is to send out proposals for what would you do with this building.
Yep.
And they would have to do the work. They would have to get it into code.
Yeah.
And we would lease it to them for like a 25-year period or something
Yep,
like that.
yep.
And that's all I was
With-
asking, and
Yeah.
I couldn't get that. So.
Oh, did you
and that's-
propose it at your Selectman meeting? And you
Yeah.
couldn't, did you get a second? Or,
Well, probably I got a second from Janet.
Janet?
Yeah, because she was
Yeah.
with me on it.
but you couldn't get a third. You'd need just a
Right.
3, right?
No.
That's too bad.
They
Because
were-
that would have been interesting, I would think,
Yeah.
to see
They
how
dug their heels in. The other 3 members kind of dug their heels in.
Yeah.
And then they start getting into this crap about, and I'm sorry for using the word crap,
It's French.
it's safety issues, okay? There's no more safety issues there now than there were 10 years ago when we had firefighters living in it, so.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Mary was disappointed. She thought
So-
she could get on the committee and maybe convince them to, look at it a little differently.
Yeah, so she left the committee, as
Yeah,
I
she left.
understand it, last night.
Yeah.
That was an interesting little talk by Mary Donovan. But I wrote an email to the Board of Selectmen with some ideas about what we could put on the fire station site.
Right.
Did you remember that, Bob?
Yeah.
Assuming, it looks like it's going to be demolished probably within the next month, right, Bob?
Yeah, a month or two.
A month or two. So,
They had more asbestos in the building than they
Yeah.
thought, so they're getting that out.
so it seems to me that we could have maybe constructed a storage building there but with an historical look to it.
Right.
Brand new building, which would be a lot cheaper even than renovating a historical building. I
We
hate to
could
say
have
it, Bob, but-
also taken the 150,000
Yeah.
that the library trustees put up and moved the Dutton House there.
That's what I would have liked to
And
have seen.
then, with my contact through this community preservation, they would have given 250,000 towards renovation. And Mass Historic said we have grants that we would have given you guys because it's a registered historic building
Okay,
to
But
fix towards the renovation.
but the Chelmsford Housing Authority said they weren't interested in
Right.
moving in there. So who would
Originally
move
they
in
were
there?
gonna do it.
And what we would have done with it is we could have turned it into a police, fire, and visitors community center,
Right.
and used senior volunteers to staff that. And it not only, and I've talked to people on the historic commission in town, and they said, yeah, we could have used it to store the orchestra instruments for it. All sorts of good uses. Like I know for me, when I was down at the center during the winter.
Yeah.
Tree lighting and stuff, there were no bathrooms.
Well,
Yeah, the
we
facilities
have
should
to
be
go,
another
but-
issue down
But,
there.
Lou, I'm sorry, we have to go, but Louis, I agree with you on that. I would love to have saved the Dutton House, move it over there, but unfortunately, we don't have time. But I hope you put in the recommendation, or still put it in. Maybe you could stop everything, I don't know. Thank you very much, Louis, first time on the show.
Enjoyed
Hopefully you had a good
myself.
time.
Great time.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
5th time on the show, was it?
5th time, that's
Fifth
right.
time, thank you.
That's right.
And the double-digit time for Bob Joyce, thank you.
Right. And I want to remind everybody, Election Day is April 7th.
Yes.
Polls are open 7 to 8.
7 a.m. to
7
8
a.m.
p.m.
to 8
Yep.
p.m.
At McCarthy.
Moth at McCarthy, 2 precincts at the senior center, as Mike talked about earlier. Thank you, Mike McCall.
thank you.
20th time,
Well,
congratulations
thank you so
again.
much for having me.
Michael.
You're a gold panelist now, Mike.
And I would respectfully ask everyone for one of their votes on
Oh, very nice.
April 7th as a town meeting rep in Precinct 3.
Yep, nice. And I would too, as Precinct 9, thank you.
And me and
Thank
one.
me. And one for
Me and
four.
five, and
four
me for
and
Board of
five, yeah.
Selectmen,
But
thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thanks our wonderful camera crew, Tom and Azor and Diane, and our director, Pete Padula. I hope to see you around town soon at all the debates and events. I'm Tom Christiano. Ciao.